Sexual exploitation. It's not a term that we hear being used very often today. In fact, for some, this may be the first time we hear it. But let me ask you this. Have you ever heard about sugar daddies? What about pornography and prostitution? These are all forms of sexual exploitation. And what you really need to know is that it's greatly affecting us, the Belizean children. Many people don't realize that it is becoming more and more popular for a child to become the victim of commercial sexual exploitation. That is, the use of a child for paid sexual relations or sexual activities. This is a direct violation of our children and human rights. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child states that every child should be protected from all forms of sexual abuse and exploitation, and even says that no one is allowed to kidnap or sell children. But are these rights backed by actual laws?
Yes, the rights are backed by laws. Laws are, the update of laws is a continuous process. So while we do have laws, there are areas where we need to strengthen our laws. As well, our laws are guiding principles, but what we need to do as well is to educate and to make sure that we have the necessary actions to ensure that those laws work in the best interest of children. From my experience, yes, the punishment is incarceration, and I've known several persons that have been incarcerated due to sexually exploiting children.
What about our boys and young men? We are exploited in the same way that girls are exploited. So why aren't we being protected?
Both boys and girls are protected. Girls are protected more so than boys. We have done extensive assessment and consultations, and we have draft legislation that is being reviewed to address the issue of exploitation on boys. I don't know if it's culturally why boys were seemingly left out. So you have some protection for boys, but it's not as extensive as it is for girls. It has been noted, and we have done consultations, and we have draft legislation for passage in order to better protect boys.
Obviously, there is a real need for our laws to be adjusted to equally protect both boys and girls when it comes to sexual exploitation.
But the laws are not the first line of defense against sexual exploitation. In fact, parents are the ones who have the most important role in protecting children. And can you imagine that some parents are the ones who actually force their children to be exploited? Don't believe it? Well, surely you've seen or heard of this very familiar situation.
Hi, sweetie. I really miss you,
In this particular case, the child's mother is not only aware of her child's involvement in this exchange, but seems to support it. This form of sexual exploitation is very common in today's society. Typically in Belize, we call it the sugar daddy or sugar mama syndrome. An older man or woman pays for school, the bills, and even sometimes the food and rent for the victim's entire family, all in exchange for a sexual relationship with a child.
But there are instances where parents are unaware of their child's involvement in sexual exploitation. Let us update you on one of the latest forms of sexual exploitation of children in Belize. Hit me on the hips. It may sound like a new dance move for young people, but trust us, it is nothing to dance about.
Mrs. Karen Kane is the Executive Director for the Youth Enhancement Services. She will tell us more about this phenomena.
Hit me on the hips is basically a new phenomenon in Belize. The title Hit Me on the Hip is because of young women now carrying their cell phone on their hip. And actually when it rings, it's because a middle person or a pimp would be using these young girls for and exploiting them, mainly in the tourist industry and sometimes even locally. The pimp would call the young girl and he would let her know that there is a transaction going on, and she would then go to the principal and pretend that she's sick. And that's the opportunity for her to get away and go and do a transaction which is of a sexual nature, where she'll be paid, and the middleman or the pimp actually gets a portion of that money that she made in exploiting herself.
As parents, you must begin to think of the precautions you need to make to protect your child. But what would those safety measures entail? Not allowing your child to take a taxi anymore? Not allowing him or her to walk the streets? It's pretty obvious that this is impossible for the common Belizean lifestyle.
So, how can you protect your child from becoming a victim of sexual exploitation without locking them up and taking away all their freedom? Here are some of our suggestions.
My parents can protect me by keeping a good eye on me, knowing who all my friends are, make sure I don't watch bad shows, and pick up what I've seen on TV.
I believe that parents can help you by talking to you, giving one-to-one, talking about the problem and the issue, advising you, telling you about what is happening in the world, and that could help you in a way. But to me, I see it is up to the child if he wants to obey or disobey that law.
How do you think your parents can protect you from being exploited?
Well, I think my parents can protect me by to talk with me, and not to talk to me, but talk with me. Sit me down and have conversation, and let me know that don't be afraid to come to them for information about sex, because I'm not too young to know about it.
Parents should have decent and direct conversation with their child to prevent them from falling prey to sexual exploitation. And by decent and direct, I mean that they should just be real and don't beat around the bush. And second, that they should provide a lot of love to their children so that they don't go and seek it elsewhere.
The only way I think that parents can really protect you is by advising you, and another way is by children listening. If you do not listen to your parents, well, you will actually do what your friends tell you to do. So it's more advisable to parents to advise their son and be real with their children.
Commercial sexual exploitation of children is a serious violation of our human rights. This form of abuse only exists because of the involvement of adults. Children cannot choose to be exploited. We are all responsible for this problem. Choosing to ignore or not react to what is happening is contributing to its growth in Belize. Warn your children and be on the lookout. Everybody must work together to protect the Belizean children.